The medical bay of Star Station Nexus hummed with the soft whir of alien technology, a symphony of machines working desperately to sustain lives that flickered like candles in a storm. Hannah lay on a crystalline biobed, her translucent Valyrian skin shimmering with the faint blue bioluminescence that marked her species. But the glow was fading, dimming like a sunset that would never see another dawn. Dr. Krell, a six-armed Thrantian physician, checked the readings with two hands while the others adjusted various instruments. His expression, unreadable to most species, conveyed deep concern to those who knew his kind. 3 cycles, he said quietly to the woman standing beside him. Perhaps 4 if we're fortunate. The cellular degradation is irreversible. Commander Sarah Chen nodded grimly, her hands clasped behind her back. Hannah was only 23 standard years old, a child by Valyrian standards where lifespan stretched across centuries. The rare genetic disease ravaging her body affected 1 in 10 million of her kind, and there was no cure. Has she requested anything? Chen asked. One thing, Krell replied, his voice dropping even lower. She wishes to be married before she passes. It's a cultural necessity for her people. To die unmarried is to die incomplete, to have one's essence scatter without anchor. Chen's jaw tightened. Have any of her people volunteered? The Valyrian delegation refuses. They say she is already dead in their eyes, that binding oneself to the dying brings misfortune. Krell's disgust was palpable despite his alien features. They've performed their ceremonies of severance. She is alone. That's barbaric. That's tradition, Krell corrected sadly. Evan Torres heard about Hannah's situation in the station's crowded mess hall, where gossip traveled faster than light-speed communications. He was a maintenance engineer, human, 28 years old, and generally kept to himself. He'd come to Nexus Station 6 months ago, running from a broken engagement back on Earth and looking for purpose among the stars. They're asking for volunteers, his friend Marcus was saying, a Centaurian with 4 eyes that blinked independently. But nobody wants to do it. I mean, what's the point? She'll be gone in days, and then you're legally bound to a dead alien's estate, family disputes, cultural complications. Where do I sign up? Evan interrupted quietly, Marcus's eyes all focused on him simultaneously. You can't be serious. Where? Evan repeated. The volunteer coordinator, a bureaucratic Zithian named Krell, seemed genuinely surprised when Evan appeared at her office. You understand this is a legal marriage? She asked, her translator rendering her clicking speech into flat English. Under Galactic Unity Compact laws, it will be binding. Even after her death, there are implications, inheritance rights, cultural obligations to her people. I understand, Evan said firmly. You're human. Your species barely understands half of galactic law. This could complicate your life for years. She's dying alone, Evan said simply. Nobody should die alone. Krell studied him for a long moment, then began processing the paperwork. Hannah was awake when they brought Evan to her medical bay. Her large opalescent eyes widened as he approached, and she tried to sit up, but her strength failed her. You are human, she whispered, her voice like wind chimes. Why would you do this? Evan pulled a chair close to her bedside and sat down. Because it matters to you, he said. Because it shouldn't matter that we're different species. Because I believe nobody should face the dark alone. Tears formed in Hannah's eyes, actual tears diamond bright in the medical bay's lights. You don't know me. Then tell me about yourself, Evan said gently. We have time. Not much, but enough, and so she did. Hannah spoke of her homeworld, Valeria Prime, where crystal forests sang in the solar winds and cities floated on clouds of ionized gas. She told him about her childhood dreams of exploring the galaxy, of the art she loved to create. Holographic sculptures that captured emotions in light and color. She confessed her fears, her loneliness, and the bitter pain of being abandoned by her own people. Evan listened. He held her hand carefully, for her bones were fragile as glass, and he listened. Over the next 3 days, they talked for hours. Evan brought her pictures of Earth, showed her recordings of ocean waves and mountain peaks. Hannah created a small holographic sculpture for him, a swirling representation of gratitude that glowed warm amber and gold. On the 4th day, they were married in a simple ceremony attended by Dr. Krell, Commander Chen, and a handful of station personnel who'd heard about the humans' kindness. Evan wore his best uniform. Hannah wore a traditional Valyrian gown that shimmered like starlight. held upright by the biobed's gravity field. When Krell asked if they accepted this union, Evan said "I do" without hesitation. Hannah's "I do" was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of worlds. That night, Hannah's bioluminescence began to fade completely. Evan sat beside her holding her hand, telling her stories about Earth, about stubborn humans who refused to give up, who reached for the stars despite impossible odds, who believed that compassion was strength, not weakness. "Evan," Hannah whispered as dawn approached on the station's simulated cycle. "Thank you for making me real again. Thank you for seeing me." "You are always real, Hannah," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Always." She squeezed his hand with the last of her strength. "Humans," she breathed, and something like a smile crossed her luminous features. "You're all wonderfully, impossibly stubborn." Her light went out as gently as a candle yielding to morning. News of what Evan had done spread through Nexus Station, then beyond, rippling through galactic networks. The human who married a dying alien became a story told across 1,000 worlds. To some species it was foolishness. To others it was incomprehensible. But to many, to the young Valyrian artists who'd felt the sting of their culture's cold traditions, to the isolated and forgotten across the galaxy, to those who believed compassion transcended biology, it became something else entirely. It became proof that humanity, for all its flaws and youth among the stars, understood something fundamental that older species had forgotten, that kindness required no reason beyond itself, that dignity was every being's right, and that love, in whatever form it took, could exist in the space between heartbeats and across the vast distances between stars. Evan kept Hannah's holographic sculpture in his quarters. Some nights, when the weight of her absence felt too heavy, he would activate it and watch the amber and gold light swirl, a testament to a brief connection that proved more meaningful than a lifetime of indifference. And in those moments, he understood what Hannah had meant in her final words. Humans were stubborn enough to believe that 3 days of being someone's anchor in the universe was worth all the complications that followed. Stubborn enough to sign papers when no one else would. Stubborn enough to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their ambition. It was their refusal to let anyone face the darkness alone.